Halo Infinite pushed to 2021, and you're gonna have to cough up a little extra bunts if you want to play Control on PS5 or Series X. I'm Lucy, and welcome to Generation Next, GameSpot's dedicated show all about the PS5 and Xbox Series X. Each week we'll be diving deep into all the biggest news stories, as well as just getting excited for the brand new consoles. I'm joined by PlayStation Pro Tamoor Hussain.
Absolutely gushing with excitement for next-gen consoles. Gushing.
I am upset. And Xbox Xpert Jordan Ramée.
What's up?
Really, Tamoor? That's what you want to... That's how we're going to introduce the show?
Fluid everywhere.
Absolutely
Fluid.
gushing.
Fluid.
This is the first ever episode, and, you know, couldn't have happened in a more quiet week for news.
Lying liars and the lies they tell.
Okay, Lion Cat from the comic book series Saga, which is very good. Yeah, totally lying. It has been a huge week for Xbox, so Jordan, I'm going to come to you for the news first.
Alright, kind of split this Xbox story into two parts. The first of which is that we finally have a more concise release date for Xbox Series X. The fact that instead of just holiday 2020, we now know it's coming in November 2020. And I assume that's probably going to correlate to something like November 17th or something therewith, so that they can use something like Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Chris Tales as quote-unquote launch titles, and they can say something like, oh, you want to play Cyberpunk 2077? We'll play it on the best console, Xbox Series X. A nice little marketing stunt that they can do right before the big holiday shopping season. But the more surprising bit of news on the Xbox side is the fact that Halo Infinite has been delayed. So Series X doesn't have this huge launch title for its system anymore. Now Halo Infinite's coming in 2021. So Tam, do you think that Series X can still do well? Like, can it launch in a good place even without Halo Infinite?
First of all, a little peek behind the curtain. I totally knew this was going to happen, to the point where when the story broke, like, I published our story maybe like 5 seconds after, because I already had... Yeah, it's my fault. But I had already written a Halo Infinite is going to be delayed story maybe like 4 months ago. So I just like dug up that doc and I was like, here you are, buddy. And like put it out there. So I think that...
Nostradamus over here. Nostradamus? I mean,
I'll take it. I'll take any.
It works better written down.
Yeah, it does. It definitely does. I will say it is going to be a huge blow for Microsoft. Not having a Halo on the launch of a brand new Xbox console, I think it will still be fine, but the dividends that would have paid would have been massive. Looking at it from a glass half full perspective, I think that there's an opportunity for really Microsoft to kind of play up the importance of their services and really show how meaningful they can be. They need to start off by making sure their other titles definitely hit, which I'm sure that they will. They probably have a few cooking that we just don't know about yet, or they're shifting things around to make it happen. But more importantly, I think that puts a greater pressure on them to make sure that Game Pass is as attractive as it can be to newcomers who are purchasing the console. It's already in a good position. We call it the best deal in gaming for good reason. But every week that goes by without a Halo is another justification for Microsoft to kind of open up their wallets and pay for bigger titles or more attractive titles for Game Pass. So I think that they need to really put an emphasis on those services, specifically Game Pass, to show why the Xbox Series X is attractive to people beyond the lack of a Halo game. So my hope is Phil sponsors some big titles for Game Pass.
Wait.
Phil Sponsor out here.
Is that his new name, Phil Sponsors?
So I call him. When he's working on Game Pass, he's called Phil Sponsor.
I like how you paused because you realized what you had said.
That was entirely intentional. You have to pause for dramatic effect.
Look, I'm just as sad as everyone else that Halo is not going to be a launch title for the Series X. Ultimately, I think it would be more damaging to them if it launched and it wasn't in the state. Obviously, there was a little bit of backlash, a lot of internet chatter about the screens they released, about the gameplay that we saw. Obviously, Craig has become Well, he's stolen my heart. I don't know about yours. So that is a shame, but ultimately I can understand it. I mean, is it gonna be enough though? I'll put this question to you both. It was like, we know we're gonna get a Series X, right? But if you are on the fence, what does the Series X have that's really gonna push you to buy it? If, you know, now that Halo slipped, are you gonna buy it for this holiday season, or I don't know. I'm interested to see what they got up their sleeves. Obviously, we have the mysterious Series S that leaked through that controller pack leak the other day. Xbox are releasing the oft-rumored lower spec Xbox Series X called the Series S.
This is going to get confusing at some point.
It's going to get so confusing.
Between 1S, 1X, Series X, and Series S.
But also, if your diction is not good, you could accidentally mispronounce. So I'm just very interested to see how the rest of the year goes for Xbox. I hope this isn't such a huge blow for them. But like Tam said, you've got Phil Sponsors there.
Mm-hmm. He's ready. He's ready to sponsor some games.
I call him Big Phil, but I'm more than happy to revert and call him Phil Sponsors.
Big Phil?
I call him Big Phil.
Philly. Yeah, Big Philly style. That's what it is.
No, I call him Big Phil because do we want to go down this path already?
You've opened the path. You've started walking. You've got to finish the journey.
There are some dating videos from like a mail-in tape service from the 80s, and there's this guy who says,
"Hi, my name is Phil. Most of my friends call me Big Phil."
So every time I hear Phil Spencer, it doesn't even look like the same guy, but every time in my head, I just automatically get the ping of, my name's Phil, my friends call me Big Phil. So I refer to Phil Spencer as Big Phil, which I'm sure he appreciates. All right, Tam, PlayStation.
Nothing specific to PlayStation, so this is more of a story that kind of has implications for a bunch of, across all platforms really. Long and short story of it is Control is getting an Ultimate Edition. It's launching for $40 on Steam, and then a PS4 and Xbox One version of that game will be available. Control is also going to get a PS5 and Xbox One X. Xbox Series X.
See?
Xbox Series X upgrade. However, the only way for you to get that upgrade is if you purchase the new Ultimate Edition. So effectively, you need to buy a new version of Control if you want the upgraded version for next-gen consoles. Currently, we asked Remedy and 505, and they said owners of the base game and DLC of Control as it stands are not eligible for an upgrade. That doesn't stop them from putting out like a upgrade DLC pack for a cheaper price later, but there's no confirmation of that happening. Obviously not the most consumer-friendly move, especially as other studios and games and companies are giving free upgrades. But I think it's important to also get some perspective on Remedy as a studio. It's not all financial considerations are the same across studios, and Remedy is a studio that I like to say constantly punches above their weight. They put out games that are like super AAA, really critically acclaimed, and they've earned the prestige studio kind of moniker and kind of like reputation. And so the expectation on them is higher, but that might not necessarily be what they're able to achieve from a financial situation. Remedy isn't a huge team, relatively speaking. It partners with publishers like 505 and Microsoft to get things done, but the financial implications on them aren't the same in the way that they are for someone like the Destiny developer Bungie. My hope is that the publisher 505 Games sees the kind of commentary around it, the backlash to it, and steps in and foots the bill for that, or Remedy is able to come to some sort of agreement, or even Microsoft steps up and is like, we'll pay for your Xbox Series X upgrade, just do it for us, or maybe Sony is the same. That's my hope anyway, or at the very least they do that DLC upgrade that is like cheap and attractive as a price point. Jordan, do you have any interest in playing Control on the PS5 or Xbox Series X, and what do you reckon about that price?
Well, I would never say that I'm not above playing Control again. One, it's an excellent game, and two, I think if I ever said anything negative about Control, like Chris P and Phil would somehow, some way, like track me down and end me.
I was gonna say another peek behind the curtain at GameSpot is whenever a new game comes out, we make a Slack channel for it to help coordinate coverage, share tips and stuff as we're all playing. They usually get closed down a few months after the game is launched and no one's really playing it anymore, talking about it. The
Not
Control
Control.
Slack channel never closed.
Control
It's
endures.
still active. We post GIFs of Dr. Darling in there.
Yeah.
It's still going.
Yeah, every few
Control
weeks you
has
just
a
get a
lot of
little
fans.
notification, a reminder that Control is still an excellent game. So
Yeah.
yes, I have no
Pretty-
problem with buying Control a second time, and I'm really not at all surprised that at least someone is doing this. Like, we remember, like, with the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, like, during that console generational change, there were moments like Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, where it came out for 360 and you could play it backwards compatible on the Xbox One. But if you wanted those, like, higher def graphics, however minor the difference it was, you had to actually buy the Xbox One version of the game. And this is essentially the same thing with Control. Like, you have the old version, you can play it on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X when they come out. And if you want the newer version, then you gotta buy it. I'm actually a little surprised that we haven't heard more developers announce that this is the way they're going to handle smart delivery or whatever PlayStation 5's version of this is going to be.
I think I was very surprised that it was Control to be the first one to come out of the gate and reveal that they were going to be charging, because they've been in showcases very recently. Like, the Alan Wake expansion was in the Microsoft showcase a few weeks ago. But I also think, Sony hasn't necessarily detailed what their next gen hop up, so to speak, is going to be. Microsoft have been talking about smart delivery, but I think they're also making concessions for select publishers. Obviously, they want to get the Cyberpunk in there, they want to get Assassin's Creed in there. If a new Call of Duty gets announced, which it seems like it is going to be, I imagine they will be the same. They'll be the same because, and I don't mean this in any horrible way, because I think Remedy are a fantastic studio. I think they make incredible games. I absolutely adore Control. Is Control a system seller? That's the question you have to ask. Cyberpunk is a system seller. Assassin's Creed, a system seller. And so I really hope we just don't get into a place where, AA indie developers are having to charge again and it's seen as anti-consumer, but it's because they're not afforded the same concessions that these blockbuster AAAs are getting. So it'll be interesting to see how this pattern continues. But all of this talk about Control and, great games got me thinking. Well, we've got this nice little fallow period, a few weeks where not that much is coming out in terms of these big blockbuster AAAs, and we're all just patiently waiting for the next generation of consoles. So what better time to revisit some of the best games from the PS4 and Xbox One? So we've each brought a favorite. I am difficult, so I've brought a multi-platform one, but Tam and Jordan both have a platform exclusive. So Tam, I'm gonna come to you first. What is the game that every PS4 owner should play while they're waiting for the PS5?
We could cut this entire portion and
see
people
that?
would know what Tam would say.
You see that
I was
bad boy
gonna
right
say.
there? That's Bloodborne, baby. Everyone should be playing Bloodborne. Firstly, I just want a slight tangent. Who uses fallow in a sentence? Grow up. Secondly, Bloodborne is the best PS4 exclusive, unless you work at Kinda Funny and have bad opinions. That's what most people
Tam,
would
this
believe.
is our first episode. We cannot take
Fire the
hot
shots.
shots.
Fire the
We
shots,
can't-
Tam.
Listen, I was
We
raised
can't
on
get
the streets.
spicy in the first episode.
This is how I roll. Shots fired always. But yeah, I think it's pretty well established that Bloodborne is probably among the premier PS4 exclusives. And if for some reason you haven't played it, I still think that a lot of people have this kind of idea that it's for a certain type of person because they've seen what Dark Souls is and what, those kind of Souls-like games are. I feel like that's kind of hampered people's interest in getting into Bloodborne. Bloodborne's a very different type of game. It looks and can feel the same, but what it requires from you and how it feeds back the things that it's doing in terms of design is completely different to Dark Souls. So even if you might have been dissuaded from playing those games because they're too hard or they feel like they're a lot, give Bloodborne a try because it's so different from those when you really get into the nitty-gritty of it. And it's immediately interesting. The world is amazing, and there's not many games that I get obsessed with on this degree. Like I literally think about it every day, and like I'm not the kind of person who would define their personality based on fictional things, but Bloodborne, maybe Batman, maybe
I was going to say, hang on, can we get a meme made up of friendship ended with Metal Gear Solid 5?
Listen, Metal Gear
Bloodborne
Solid
is
5.
my new best friend now.
Metal Gear Solid 5 is the greatest stealth game ever made, but Bloodborne is just one of the greatest games ever made.
Alright.
Period. Facts.
I mean, he's not wrong. Like,
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong.
Yeah.
So
it.
why should people play it? Give us like the going into the next gen. Why do people have to experience this particular game?
I think like obviously, as you said earlier, Sony's plans for the next gen hop up, as you called it, which I like very much, are unclear.
That was for you both, because
Thank you.
Tam and I play Apex together, and I know Jordan loves Apex, but Jordan plays on different.
I mean, it's the best battle royale game of all time, but that's neither here or there. We're talking about Bloodborne.
True. Yeah, I mean, like, there's no guarantee that Bloodborne will make it to the PS5. I think if Sony doesn't include some sort of upgrade path for Bloodborne, they'll grow up, Mark Cerny. But like, I don't think you should wait for PS5 to make it, decide you want to play Bloodborne. Bloodborne is phenomenal right now. It's distinct. There's nothing else like it in existence. Like, in no game it comes close. You have Souls-likes, but very few can come close to like how expertly crafted this game is. Whether it's the gameplay, the story, the characterization, the kind of like the ambience and the mood, the feel that the game puts you in when you play it and you go into Yharnam. It's like a singular experience, and it's the more you go into it, the more you realize how amazing it is. To quote, Master Willem, grant us eyes and play the game and you will be granted eyes, so you will see the truth of the PlayStation exclusive catalog in that this is the best one.
I don't really remember that particular voice line. Maybe I didn't do that side quest. But before I move on to...
Your eyes are yet to
before I move
open,
on
Lucy.
to Jordan, you technically... You said that Apex is the best battle royale, but we're talking about Bloodborne. Well, technically, can't you kill everyone in Bloodborne? So doesn't it make Bloodborne a battle royale? To be the last one standing.
Lucy, I'm about to break social distancing so we can throw hands. Don't you?
You live like an hour and a half away from me. It's fine. But, food for thought. Jordan, what is your...
Hold on. Before we continue, I'd like to issue a correction. It was Mikolesh who actually says grant us eyes. I apologize to everyone else there.
I was going to say...
Someone's got to play Bloodborne again.
Think of
Great. See you later,
the
guys.
cancellation you would have had if you'd got that wrong. Jordan, I'm going to come to you. What is your favorite Xbox One game that you think people may have missed?
It's got to be Sunset Overdrive, and largely because I think it represents like the best part of when Xbox was really behind highlighting unique creative ideas, and they still kind of do that. Like, they have their idea at Xbox and whatnot, and I really like the indie games that they have offered, but they haven't done anything like truly unique or remarkable with a AAA game in like a really long time. And like, I remember like early on in the Xbox One's career, and they would have games that weren't so good, like Quantum Break, and then ones that were pretty good, like Titanfall, which was an awesome like Xbox One console exclusive. And then you had stuff like Sunset Overdrive, which was this beautiful like melding of combat and navigation, where you would be jumping on cars and grinding on lines and wall running across buildings, shooting zombies, and having like this really silly time with all these like incredibly unique weapons. And it had this incredible style all its own that you didn't really see in any other games, especially games that had stuff like parkour, like Assassin's Creed and Tomb Raider and whatnot. And it was so good, and I loved it so much, and I always look back on them like, man, Xbox is like one of their biggest mistakes of this generation is letting Insomniac get away with them and taking that amazing combination of navigation and combat and using that to create an amazing Spider-Man game. But like, Sunset Overdrive, that's where it was at, and I loved it so much. It was the brief moment when it came out was when I was like, okay, Xbox has this. They can come back. They'll have plenty of excellent first-party console exclusives, and then the like dark times of late 2014 to 2017 happened, and I'm not even sure if we're out of it yet. But Sunset is great, and everyone should play that.
I just want to say that I appreciate your impassioned speech for Sunset Overdrive, but Tam, your mic is picking up the buttons, man.
Oh.
I can see you playing Bloodborne. No, not in a bad way. I just really want Evan, editing, voice of God. I just need you to slowly zoom in on Tam's screen. I could see him. You had the whirligig. You were going through the menus, and I was like, if he does a boss, like not even looking at the screen, looking at it reflected, that is the biggest power play I've ever seen.
I just killed
Jordan to talk about Sunset Overdrive. Tam can just beat Mikulish.
I think Sunset just represents something really great about Xbox. It was this fun, colorful experiment, and hopefully, you see flashes of it, like you said, in ID at Xbox games. Hopefully with a new Fable, just a bit of, I don't know, something different, something with attitude. So I hope we get to see more of that coming up over the next few months with some more games. But my choice, like I said, because I'm difficult, multi-platform game, because I can't choose, is Dishonored 2. So the reason I picked Dishonored 2 for like a game that you might have missed from this generation is because I love Dishonored 2. I love Dishonored, but I think 2 is this great moment where you can see the seeds for future Arcane games. And I think in particular where that lies is with Deathloop. Obviously Deathloop is coming to PlayStation first, but it will be coming to Xbox eventually. You can see, incredible level design within Dishonored 2. I think Cracking the Slab and obviously the Clockwork Mansion, two of the greatest and most fun levels in any immersive sim, maybe in any video game ever. But you can see the way...
I agree.
What?
Thank
Fine,
you.
whatever.
I mean, Cracking the Slab, going simultaneously through time, you can see... obviously, it came out the same year as Titanfall 2's amazing
I think
effective pause
Titanfall 2
level.
did it a lot better, but sure, whatever, go off.
They are Cracking the Slab, man. But it's just really cool the way you can see that powers, you can see level design, and it's also... The game has so much style. It has such a well-crafted world, and that world has lore. And they did such a great job with Prey. Obviously a bit buggy on launch, Tam. I was there with you throughout the review process. I know you had your struggles with Prey, but looking back on it, it's a really fun game. And, they tried a little bit extra with the drop-in, drop-out co-op of Wolfenstein Youngblood. And all of this is what I'm hoping is just going to accumulate into Deathloop, which, I mean, I've spoken to death about how much I'm excited for that game. It is my... Like, at this point, I think I'm more excited for Deathloop than I am for something like Cyberpunk or Assassin's Creed, which is huge for me because I love both of those. Like, I'm so into CD Projekt Red. I love Assassin's Creed, but honestly, Deathloop is like my... You can bleep that if you want. But... So, honestly, if you want to, get us hyped for Deathloop as I am, go back to Dishonored 2, go back to the amazing DLC, which had such a cool storyline, and no one probably played it, because they're, not doing anything with Dishonored at the minute. It's a fantastic game. Go do it. Alright, so those are our recommendations for games you might have missed from this generation while we wait for the next. Join us again next week. We'll be here breaking down all the biggest news stories and let us know which games you think you should pick up from this generation if you haven't already. And let us know what you're playing either in the comments below, in the GameSpot Discord, message one of us for an invite. It's a very fun, chill place. We're all very excited about gaming in there, understandably. Or come tweet at us all. Tam, where can people find you?
Gushing in Yarnum, that's where you can find me.
Can you stop saying
We
gushing?
started and concluded with that.
I'm on Twitter at Tamoor.
I hate that this is what we've bookended the show with.
We got Gushing, Phil Sponsor, and
Big Phil.
Oh my god.
some other stuff. Big Phil, yeah.
Jordan.
Incorrect opinions about time travel levels, but...
Don't make me take your plug away from you, Jordan. Where can people find you?
They can find me at JM Ramée, where I talk about games with excellent time travel levels, like Titanfall 2.
Look, I'm not dissing Titanfall 2, okay? I love Titanfall 2. but Dishonored is better. And I'm on Twitter at Lucy James Games. We'll see you next week.
I respect that, Russell.